Evening, folks. Evening, Jonathan. Or good morning, quite right. It is past midnight, so good morning. Happy Sunday to you. I've just stocked up on bandsaw blades. I say stocked up, I've got 5. I call these a necessary evil because I absolutely hate setting these things up, and the amount of work that goes into setting them up doesn't warrant it because they go dull within. If I get a month of really good sharpness, I'm very lucky. The amount that I use it, I would have thought it should last longer. You know, even if I do 1 block a day, how much cutting is that already? It's nothing. Hey Jeff. So I don't know, these things, I know that briar is very dense, but still, it should last longer than that. I mean, essentially, if I'm, say, cutting on average a block a day, and it's usually less than that. So, I mean, it used to be easily a block, sometimes 2 blocks a day, but now I've kind of slowed down. And hello, Steph. So I would say on average in any given month, I'm probably doing about 20 blocks if I'm lucky. So if I do 20 blocks, that means maybe 70 or 100 strokes on the bandsaw. Does that make sense? I don't think it does. So it's frustrating because I wouldn't mind if it would last me 3-4 months. I mean, I don't actually change them as soon as they start to get dull because I can't be bothered, and I struggle along with it being dull. So everything goes a lot slower, only because I don't want to have to reset it. So there is a possibility that I might get not a new bandsaw, but a second-hand, actually really old one. I'll talk about that soon. Interesting story to that. Hey Michael. Hi Todd. You're bragging on the princess pipe you made. Good. I hope you're still smoking it and enjoying it, Steph. So the reason why I'm late today is because I actually had a photography job this evening, and it was quite a long job. I've been on my feet for quite a number of hours, and it was a hard slog, and I'm very tired. So hence I'm actually going to be cracking open. I mean, it's already unsealed, but I haven't started this box yet, and I wanted a good cigar that I could really enjoy and really get some deep satisfaction from. And for that, it had to be Cuban. No disrespect to the non-Cubans out there, but it had to be Cuban. And I've smoked one of these. It's a new release. Thank you, Steph. I appreciate that. That really makes me, it warms my heart. And I've got to be honest with you, I'm much the same. I have such a small rotation of pipes now that I mean, I own many more pipes than I smoke. I haven't done a count recently. I should really do another count, maybe do a video of my pipes, of my own pipes, rather than the ones that I'm selling. I don't mean LCS Briars pipes. I mean, I have a box of pipes which were bought in order to sell, to refurbish and sell. I just haven't got around to it. Hi Patrick. And of course I've got that consignment of pipes, but those don't belong to me. They're obviously sold on behalf of somebody else. But I have in my drawers next to me and on my racks, I've got my own pipes. I try to get to all of them every so often, but there's really a very small core of pipes that I smoke regularly, depending on what I'm smoking. So I've been smoking Orley Golden Sliced a lot, as you know, but of late, as we're moving into the winter, my taste buds are not enjoying it as much. And I actually had a bowl of it tonight on the way to the job. It was okay, but I didn't really, it wasn't anything anywhere near like the usual enjoyment that I would have gotten from it. So I've been sort of smoking a lot of vanilla roll cake, and also recently I cracked open a jar of Dunhill Flake that I'd put away in where is that jar? This is from 2017, and it's absolutely delicious. So it's interestingly, I know I'm jumping from topic to topic now. I'll try to remember to come back to the various topics that I've touched on. But this is 2017 Dunhill Flake, and this jar is not the most airtight of jars, but it's done a good job. It is, you know, in perfect condition. And the thing is that it's actually, the camera's brightening it up. It's actually really dark, the tobacco. You've been trying to learn things your grandparents knew. What does that mean? That you've become a grandparent? Hey Adam, are you telling me that you've become a grandparent? You drove 6 hours today? Flipping Nora. I don't enjoy driving anymore. I mean, I do, but I don't, if that makes sense. I used to be very much into driving. Night, daytime, don't make a difference. Now, as age creeps up, you know, I don't enjoy driving at night at all. And during the day, I do enjoy driving to some extent, but I don't like long haul drives anymore. Motorway driving I don't like anymore. Country roads, that I still adore, and if I'd love to be in a smaller stick shift car on country lanes, but I don't get to do that very often. Hey Justin, learning more canning bacon from scratch. Oh, I see. Okay. You wish you were becoming a grandparent. All in good time, Steph. All in good time. You'll get there. Where was I? What was I talking about? Yeah, so the Dunhill Flake. So all it gone sliced. There's a little bit on the back shelf now. Dunhill Flake. So that's what I was trying to say. Dunhill Flake originally, before I knew All It Golden Sliced. Hey Mark. Before I knew All It Golden Sliced, back in the days, you're talking maybe 5-6 years ago, something like that. Mark Sparky Hughes. Dunhill Flake to me was a lighter, more enjoyable smoke, and Dunhill Dark Flake was a darker flake, more robust, more deeper flavors, more earthy flavors, that kind of thing. And Dunhill Flake, when I first started really getting into Virginia Flakes, Dunhill Flake was my go-to tobacco, and I've even forgotten about that. That was my up until this moment now, I'd forgotten about it. But going way back, this was, hey McPhil, this was my go-to. And when I first started smoking Dunhill Flake, you could still buy the small oblong tins with the blue and white tins. Hey Sharon. The blue and white tins went away quite quickly. Then it was the round tins, and then Dunhill started making tobacco, and then Chariton came on board, and then finally Peterson took over. So it was an interesting period, but I mean, I really got into pipe smoking at a very interesting period in the whole story of pipe smoking, I think. And I think it will continue to be interesting for the next 10 years, not for good reasons. So anyway, so I've really been liking this. I've been enjoying that. I've smoked since opening the jar just a couple of days ago. I've smoked maybe 5-6 bowls of it and really enjoyed it. I haven't had Dark Flake for years. I really haven't chased it. I don't know if I've got an open jar of it somewhere. I honestly don't really. I used to keep a bit of a spreadsheet of the tobaccos that I have open, but I don't update it anymore. You broke the stem of your pipe. Oh dear. Hey, said. So I may well have some dark flakes somewhere, but I know I have a tin of it, at least one tin of it in my cellar. So maybe one day. I mean, that will be a similar age. It'll be either 2016 or 2017, maybe 2018. When I heard that Dunhill was going to the wall, the tobaccos, I definitely purchased wherever I could at the time, wherever I could afford. Jeff, yeah, I mean, I am definitely of the age. The last time I went to the optician, they did say that there are some very, very light indications of it, but if I look after my eyes, I'll be okay for a long while yet. She said I haven't got cataracts as such, but start to see a little bit of haziness. So she recommended that I wear sunglasses as much as I can, and to stay out of bright sunlight, or at least to protect my eyes. So I've got various sunglasses, and I've also got reactor lights, so these will go dark in the sun. The only shame of it is that they won't go dark in the car, because most modern cars, the windscreens of most modern cars have got UV filtration in the windscreens, so it filters out the UV, and the UV is what triggers the darkening in reactor light glasses. So that's a bit of a pain. So for that, I've got sunglasses which I keep in the car, prescription sunglasses. Hey Prepper Man, how you doing? So that was Dunhill Flake. Nero, how you doing? Anyway, so this evening, what else was I talking about? I jumped away from the subject. I touched on a few things before and I can't remember what it were. Anyway, so this evening, I really wanted to pick a nice cigar. So these are Por Laranaga. This is the Galenis or Galanis or Galenis. It's a new release from Habanos SA. And as much as I am frustrated by Cuban cigars, they still hold a special place in my heart because of the flavor profile. So I got these. I actually got these from GQ Tobaccos. I had bought maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. I wanted to buy some Cuban cigars. I obviously nowadays, because of the way things are with customs, you just 1 second, Nero. We'll get to you in a minute. Because of the way things are with customs and everything, although I used to buy quite a few Cubans abroad, nowadays it just doesn't work. And unless you've got somebody coming in from another country, it's just not worth it. Hopefully I will have. One of my boys is going abroad, so hopefully I'll get some soon. But anyway, so I went into GQ Tobaccos and I looked for cheap Cuban cigars, and I like Robusto size cigars, so anything from, hey Oscar, anything from 48 ring gauge upwards I'm happy with. At a pinch I'll go to 46 or 44, but even 42, which, you know, the Moravas, but generally speaking my preference is 48 upwards. So I look usually for the short Robustos, or any short version of a Robusto, and they're usually between 20 and 25 pounds, which that's a huge amount of money, but it's still the cheapest that you can buy really here in the UK. So I bought a selection of small Robusto cigars. One of them was this new Por Laranaga Galenis. I smoked it and it was absolutely delicious. I did a video at the time. I recorded the video. Hey Paul. I recorded a video at the time, and I felt that unless I bought enough for myself, if I did the video, then they're going to sell out straight away, which is exactly what happened. So I got in touch with GQ. I bought a box of 10 and I put up the video, and then I wanted to buy some more. He said sold out, and I've looked everywhere else and they're all sold out now. So it's I'm not saying they're sold out because of me, but they're just maybe because they're popular or because they're just newly released, so there's only a small amount out there. But bottom line is they weren't available anymore, so hence I put these away sort of to age. But what I'm going to do is, because that one that I smoked was so good, oftentimes what happens is that normally speaking, if you get cigars which have just been released and they're fresh and they're Cuban, you need to put them away for at least a year, ideally 3-4 years, 5 years, but certainly a year, 18 months as a minimum, a starting point. But these had just been released. I had bought one, smoked it, and it was absolutely delicious. And often what you get is, with the first release, they're the best that they'll ever be. I remember when the Behike, the Cohiba Behike 52 was released. I think it was in 2010, before I started actually smoking in earnest. But that year release of 2010s were phenomenal. The year they were released, because they're sort of showcasing a new release. So they use the best possible tobacco. They make sure that it's being rolled by the best rollers, and it's just fantastic, almost from the off. I'm not saying I'm not saying that all cigars are like that, but certainly the Cohiba Behike's 2010 52 ring gauge, they were phenomenal. And you buy a 52 ring gauge Behike now, it'll be a great cigar, but I don't think it'll be anything like that first year's release. So I'm taking a bit of a gamble here and thinking that because this is the first year's release and the one that I had before was absolutely delicious, I'm going to take a gamble and try one of these. And it could well be that they won't be ready and I'll have to just put them away and forget about them for a year or two. The flip side is, or the downside is that if it is delicious, I'll end up going through this box in no time at all. That's the problem. So there we go. These have not been aged at all, Steph. These are cigar. The box date. The box date is December 2022. So there's a year age on them, and Cuba officially ages the cigars for maybe 6 months or so before they send them out. So it could be a year and a half. But I think of late you can't rely on that, because they just, I think, shipping stuff out as soon as they can, but you just don't know. The thing is that because of COVID, they weren't able to ship out a lot of cigars. There was a shortage of cedar, so they had a lot of cigars lying around for a while, and so cigars which have got a box date of 2020, they've been smoking very, very well, because in fact they're actually 2018s and 2019s which were sitting around. That's something which one of the people in the know told me about when I was at one of the cigar shops in London. So if you see a box of 2020, I'm not guaranteeing it, but it's worth a punt, that it might be more than just 2020. It might be 2018 or 2019. So yeah, you're right, Oscar. It's the way the prices are, but I'm gonna try one and see how it goes. And so that's a good candidate. So what was I saying before? Yeah, about my bandsaw. So remind me later on to tell you about my possibility of getting a new bandsaw, an old new bandsaw. Remind me. An interesting little story. But before I do that, I want to show you a new pipe. So despite the fact that I make pipes, I'm still a fan. I still buy pipes occasionally, not as often as I used to, nowhere near as often as I used to. It's actually quite rare that I buy a pipe now, but I'm still a fan. And let's have a look. So I mentioned this in one of my recent thank you, Steph, have a good night, sleep well. In the recent live about these pipes, these are the 2023 Peterson Christmas pipes in 2023. And I also took the opportunity to buy something which I thought was nice, which I have not actually looked at yet. This is a Sherlock Holmes tobacco jar. Nice Peterson lid. So these are hexagon shaped leather clad tobacco jar, and it has a pewter Sherlock Holmes figurine on the top. I'm trying to figure out what material this is inside. It feels a bit plasticky, silicone-y or something like that. So I think it's just card but covered in silicone to keep it and I'm assuming it's airtight. I mean, the lid fits on very, very well, I will say that. That's a good fit. I've got it on in the wrong place. There we go. That's a nice little jar to have on your desk. It's actually called, a travel humidor, cigar, sort of tobacco, pipe tobacco jar. I'm not sure you'd call that travel size, but still. Cigars have a Black Friday sale on their pipes up to half price. Okay, cool. The cigar wax paper was left out. I think the wax paper was in, but these things were left out. They're really not important. The wax paper goes on straight onto the cigars. That's already there. But thank you. Okay, so the pipe. Actually, I think this might actually be leather. I think this might be a leather bag. Peterson, this is a new bag. I haven't seen these bags before. And these tie, what's his names, also feel like they're leather, which is a bit of an upgrade. A chat with a smoker. I haven't seen this one either. Peterson guarantee. The Peterson, oh, you got all the Peterson, like a shape chart, which is quite cool. Haven't seen that before. And then you also get a Peterson silver polishing cloth. That's a new one, haven't seen that before either. So there's a little Peterson polishing cloth in there. Nice touch. Alright, so I guess you want to see the pipe. So this is a fishtail, not a P-lip. I don't buy P-lips generally, although I may well try it one day again to see, but generally I don't buy them. So this is a, actually I'll put the light on so so that we don't have so much pixelation. So this is the 05 shape, I think, or 005. So I guess the Christmassy part of it is the fact that it's a ruby kind of stain. It's got a sterling silver band, and it has, for a change, got the proper metal P. For the money, you do get good value. Whether it's a good pipe or not will remain to be seen. It's got a nice sandblaster on at least one side. The other side is more sort of bird's eye. But so you've got sort of some grain going across there and across there. On the silver band it says Peterson Dublin, and then it's got the hallmark. It's a shame it doesn't say Christmas on the band, but on the base it says Peterson of Dublin, Christmas to 2023, made in Ireland, 05. So it's 05 shape. It's actually not a very big bowl at all. It's really quite narrow, but in terms of capacity, it's a fair size. It's actually tapered a bit as well, so it's not a huge bowl. So you can see where the hole is. The hole is halfway up the mortise. So when you're buying it, also if you notice here, can you see there's a little gap there between the silver and the face of the shank, and it's a little bit squared off. It's not perfectly round. You know, you get what you pay for, I guess. I don't like to take apart other people's pipes. Certainly not artisan pipes. Factory pipes I don't mind so much. You know, it's a factory pipe, and there's a limit to how much finesse you're going to get on a factory pipe. For me, the best factory pipes out there, although they cost more, just my personal opinion, is Stanwell. Although Savinelli's are also very, very good. And I'm not going to call Castello a factory pipe, because they're somewhere in between factory and artisan. So for me anyway, I think Mike would probably say that they're artisans, a group of artisans in a workshop. That's probably the way to describe them. But with a factory pipe, I don't have a problem reviewing it, so to speak. And with Petersons, you know, I've never been, almost since day one, I've never been a fan. I think a lot of people, especially in America, are fans because of the history, because of the story that goes with Peterson, and that's great. I'm actually myself a fan of it from that perspective. I mean, I've got the Peterson book, the big book, the Peterson book, and I absolutely love the story of Peterson and respect the story of Peterson up until maybe the last decade, let's say. And I still respect it now, what's happening. At least it's being saved, and at least it still exists. But I've had quite a number of Petersons, and they've all fallen short. All have fallen short. And I've had to mess around with them in order to... sorry, I will take that back. I can't say that all fallen short, because this one has been fine. It's a straight pipe, you can't really go wrong with it, and I love the sandblast on it. That's why I bought it. And I smoke vanilla roll cake in it, and it smokes it great. It's one of my favourite pipes for vanilla roll cake. But you know what? This is a bog standard straight pot, and if you get that wrong, you shouldn't be in the pipe business. this is my other one. This is Christmas from, was it last year? No, 2 years ago. Christmas 2021. And any of you guys who watched me break this pipe in will remember how much work I did to it to get it to smoke somewhere in the right direction. So much so that I ended up losing the P over here, which was filled with some kind of white something or other, resin maybe. But I lost that when I had to straighten the stem out in order to re-drill it because it was so tight, and the heat I think just ended up me losing that P. I also re-drilled, and which I'm going to probably have to do with this pipe. If I'm going to keep this pipe, I'm probably going to have to do the same thing. And what I did last time was with a Dremel, I basically carved out a channel from the underside of that draft hole down to the bottom of the mortise, so that I can get smoke through that channel down to the filter, which is down there. The opening of the mouth of the filter is going to be at the bottom of the mortise. If you have a look, so the filter is going to be over there, but the drill hole is up here. So how's that going to work? So you have to kind of carve a channel so that the smoke has an easier path. It'll smoke even like this, but it won't be an easy journey for the smoke, and you'll have a tight draw as a result. So I have to really think about it. I want to keep it simply because you know, the silver as well is extremely thin. It's like almost foil, and you can see the shape of it. But for the money, you know, you can't complain. You're getting a storied brand, a famous brand, sterling silver, sandblast. I think it's still a good value for money, really good value for money, in fact. I bought this from GQ Tobaccos, and they had them on sale. Plus, as a member of the Pipe Club of London, you get an additional discount, or you can if you want. And so it ends up being a very cheap pipe. And for the money to have a Christmas pipe, and it's 9mm, so I thought, yes, why not? So I probably will play with it and try and get it as close to how I want it to smoke. Maybe I'll still do that. No, I don't think I can, because the Dremel will make too much noise. It'll disturb people in the house. The shape is 05. I mean, there's no shortage of 9mm Petersons, Patrick. I mean, maybe not in the States, but there's no shortage in general. What is harder to find is 9mm system pipes. Yeah, Adam, again, I would say that again. I'm very happy that Lodizi, or whatever you want to call them, smokingpipes.com, that they've sort of saved the company. But I don't know what was going to happen with it. I don't know if there was a possibility of it being closed down. I don't know what the story was with that. But, you know, I guess it's all down to pounds, shillings and pence, and or euros, as it might be in Ireland. But Peterson don't actually make pipes anymore. They're not in the pipe making business. The pipes are made in, or at least the stummels are made in Italy, and I think they attach the silver and the stems in Ireland, but the stummels are made in Italy now. So the pipes are no longer Irish. I have now 3 Petersons, I think. And I'm supposed to be getting one from the head office in Ireland, but it still hasn't happened. They were supposed to be replacing a pipe which they cut up. We won't go into that story now. They moved to a new factory in Dublin. I would assume that that was more probably a smaller premises, but I don't know. But if based on the context, I would guess it's a smaller or cheaper factory where they can make things more concise and more viable for them financially. But I'll have to look into that. I don't know. Nice open drawer for a change, but then I did select what I thought was the best one in the box. Some of you guys might have watched me make this Rhodesian. I'm still in the early stages of the polishing, but that's where it's up to at the moment. It's really coming along very, very nicely. If any of you happen to watch me make this on Thursday, so this is a commission pipe, and the customer wanted a triangular as opposed to diamond shank. So the base is curved, and then you've got the half diamond on the top. This is a sort of a freehand shaped diamond shank. Usually I would use a template stem and work from that, but I didn't on this occasion, but it worked out very well. And really should turn out to be a lovely pipe. I've still got a way to go on that. I've only just done the first bit of polishing on it. Hey Richard. For filters, I've always used Dr. Pearl, the Vaughan Dr. Pearl filters, so I've been happy with them, so I've stuck with them. It's not to say that others aren't good, it's just what I'm used to. They've also improved them. Both of the ends are now ceramic, where it used to be one end was plastic and one end was ceramic. So now it doesn't make a difference which way you put the filters in, which is nice. Got one of these silicone key covers. This is from a Toyota, and this is a remote control key, and the key, I've had so many of them, they keep on breaking. They're not made very well. The blue side goes into the stem facing the smoker, but a lot of people couldn't get their head around it, so they changed it and made both ends ceramic, so it makes no difference. But the blue side goes towards the mouthpiece. So what I did was I got a new housing on Amazon. I transferred the remote, the inside of the remote and the key onto the new housing, and I bought one of these silicone covers to protect it, and hopefully that will now be good. And when I want a photographic job, I take it off my keyring. I leave my keys in the car because I don't want to be jingling keys everywhere. I leave my keys in the car and I just have the key on its own in my pocket. Lorenzetti pipes, I'm not familiar, to be honest. The truth of the matter is that quick magnetic attachments for keys. Alright, cool. Special Latakia flake for UK prepper man. In a Dunhill route. Ooh. Flashy boy. Batteries. Tower Bridge. Wonderful tobacco. Larinaga Galenus. I think they need to be put away, but we'll see how the rest of the cigar goes. Yeah, as I said at the top of the live, the OGS is now on the back seat. I don't know if it's the winter coming along or whatever, but my palate hasn't been enjoying it of late, and the Dunhill flake has definitely been tasting better to me. The thing is, as long as a pipe is drilled right, it doesn't matter how much it costs. Whether it's going to be a great pipe or not is pot luck. So you might as well, if you're going to see a pipe which is drilled right and it's only 50, whatever it is, I can't see the stupid heart is in the way, £50 or $50 or €50, whatever it might be, you can't really go wrong, as long as it's drilled correctly. Obviously, the higher up the price bracket you go, you're going to get certain improvements, but with factory pipes that's going to be quite limited. When you get an artisanal pipe, then there is going to be improvements the higher you go up to a point, I think, and then you're paying for brand. Good for you, prepper man. I haven't yet gone over to Latakia, but certainly the OGS is just not. It's not because it's too light and it's not filling my senses enough. It just tastes different. It's just tasting a little bit bitter to me now. So it used to be that I'd move over to Latakia, but I haven't done that as yet. I mean, I'll smoke Latakia every so often, but I haven't gone over to it sort of fully. So that's my go-to smoke. I would say that at the moment I'm still enjoying the vanilla roll cake. LCS Crown number 750. Nice. Let's see what that one looks like. Can't remember. Oh right, I think I know which one that is. Kind Series Rosebud. Yeah, that's a nice pipe. That's a beautiful part. Did I make that for you? I don't recall if you bought it or if I made it for you. Was that a commission? You got it from the commissioner at Hard Times. Oh, that's sad. I seem to remember that it was commissioned, yeah. Mad Piper, welcome aboard. It's definitely not tasting as good as the previous one, but I will say that this box is in my humidor downstairs, which right now is very cold, because it's like a conservatory. So in the summer it's really warm, and in the winter it's really cold. I should really bring them in now, because they're probably going to be, I mean, cold is fine, it's not the end of the world, it's really if they get too hot which is the problem. But I'm certainly getting some of the sweetness that I got, but it's not, at the moment it's smoking quite green, quite harsh. Let's see if it settles down. But it's got a good full tobacco sort of sensation, so it's definitely satisfying. It just would be nice to get those flavours again. It definitely will be better with age, but the funny thing is that the one I had before, which was fantastic, was the same age. It's from the same first batch of they've just been released. This particular cigar is a new release. It just goes to show you that you can have cigars from the same year and they'll be completely different. But chances are that I just need to maybe bring them in and equalize the temperature a bit. It's all a question of room. I just have no room for the humidor in the house at the moment. I've got no room in here for it. I mean, I could put it here under my desk, which would mean taking out the set of drawers that's there and making my area under the desk much smaller. You know, everything that I've done to redesign this room has been to make more room, so to bring that in here would seem counterproductive, but alright, so I wanted to talk to you about the possibility of a new bandsaw. Well, it's an old bandsaw, but a new to me, possibly. So I've actually got a little clip. When I'll show that to you, I'll probably do another video about that. So I have a great uncle who for many years used to make phylacteries. If you know what that is, you know what that is. If you don't, it's part of our attire when we do our prayers in the Jewish religion, and they're made out of leather, and essentially it's made out of cowhide, and they're made into little boxes which we wear with straps. They're called in Hebrew. They're called tefillin. If you have a look up phylacteries, which is spelled Phylac, I think Aries, something like that. Anyway, so this guy was a real craftsman, and he used to make them in his basement. And I remember when I was a little kid, I used to go and visit every so often, and it would be like me going into Aladdin's cave, because he was the kind of guy who was, number one, he was a perfectionist, but he also adapted machinery to work to make the things that he wanted, because you couldn't buy machines on the market to make that kind of thing. The market was just too niche, and there was no such thing. So he would buy machines and then adapt them to do the things that he wanted. And I would say that the last time I was in his workshop was probably about 45 years ago, something like that, a long time ago. And he's been sort of cracking on and working, and in the last couple of years, he's now well into his 80s, and in the last couple of years, he's become too frail, and he literally had to stop from one day to the next. I'm not sure if he had a stroke or not. I can't remember. I don't recall. But either way, he had to stop from one day to the next. And he had to move into one of his kids' houses. And this workshop basically sat gathering dust in the basement of the house. One son still lives it's a big house, and they had a big family, and the whole family used to live in that house. And the mother passed away, my great aunt, she passed away a few years ago, and after she passed away, I guess my great uncle, age caught up with him very quickly, which often happens when one member of the partnership either passes away or becomes frail or loses their mind or something like that. Then it often affects the other member of that couple. And that's, I think, what happened here as well. She passed away and he deteriorated very quickly. But he's still, thankfully, he's well. He lives with one of his daughters, and hopefully he'll be well for a long time yet. But bottom line is, he had to stop using the workshop. And this son, who lives in the house still, he's kind of become like a guardian of the house, but also this workshop, which he kind of wanted to almost retain it and keep it as a memorial to the work that his father did all his life, literally his whole working life, and almost wanted it to be like a museum. But at the same time, there were other people who were interested in the machinery. So out of the goodness of his heart, he let somebody else have a look at it to see if they could use any of the machinery. And they started sort of taking bits and pieces apart to see what they could and couldn't use. And I don't know, something happened. They gave up halfway, and my cousin, who lives in the house, is now very upset because they just literally took apart a load of his father's machinery and left it in that taken apart state, and just left it on the floor. And you know what that can be like. If somebody's going to make use of it and take it away and use it is one thing, but to take it apart and then change their mind and just leave everything, strewn all over the place, that's pretty disgusting behaviour. And that's essentially what happened. So I've seen him a few times. And more recently, he popped into us when we had a barbecue. And he said, "Why don't you come over and see if there's anything you can use?" So I said, "Yeah, I will." And I figured there might be something there. Anyway, tonight I was in the area, I was working in the area. I gave him a call. I said, "Have you got a few minutes? I can come over and have a look." He said, "Yeah." So I went over. going down memory lane, going down those stairs in the basement, it has not changed one iota in 45 years. Not a single thing has changed, besides for the mess that was left. But the staircase, and you can see that, you know, a man's whole working life is in that basement. You know, when you have like containers with screws and nuts and bolts, or in your garage where you're not going to throw them away because you know one day that one bolt, which is of a stupid size, which you're not going to be able to buy in the shop, and you'll need it, and it'll fix something for you. Anyway, that's, you know, all over the place in that basement. But besides for that, the machinery, he's got a 10-ton press down there, which he used for pressing the leather. And I said to my cousin, you know, this is a typical thing which people use to press tobacco. You know, somebody could make really good use of that. And because of the age of it, hey Phil, and because of the age of it, anything which is motor driven is belt driven. Because in those days, you didn't buy things with motors attached to them. You bought a machine which then had with a belt drive, and then you had to attach a motor to it. So he's got one of these belt sanders, you know, these horizontal belt sanders, you know, they're about that wide and they're sort of spinning around. Nowadays there's a motor attached to it. He's got one which is belt driven. So he's got a motor somewhere sitting on a plate somewhere else, and obviously there's a belt driving it. And it's all fitted onto a timber, onto a plyboard, which is obviously put it all together so it's one unit kind of thing. You see lots of lathes like that. If you go on eBay, you'll see lathes where they're all screwed down to a board, and you've got the lathe, and then you've got a motor sitting behind with a belt connecting the two. So that's how he had that. It's not staying alight, which is not good news. It's going up. I'll relight it shortly. Well, these cigars definitely have to be put down. They're not ready. So he's got this sort of wide belt sander. Then he's got a motor, a buffing wheel sort of motor, so you can put two buffing mops on the end. I don't know how fast it goes. I didn't try anything out. I said to him that I just wanted to come in for 5 minutes just to see if it made sense for me to come back and spend more time there, which I definitely will do now, having seen it. So there's a buffing station, if you like, there. So there's a buffing motor, and it has two pigtails. So you could put different sort of hardness buffing mops on each end. I'm just not sure how fast it is. So that would be of interest. And there's two other things which were of very, very great interest to me. One of them is the bandsaw. So he's got quite a big bandsaw, but it's not on a stand. It's not a floor standing one. It's a bench mounted one, but it's bigger and beefier than the one I've got, and it takes bigger belts, bigger bands, bigger blades, and I think that might work better for me. I'll try it out and see. So that's a possibility that I'll take that. And then the other thing is, and he's also actually got a dust extractor, which I was actually really interested to see. It was a Record Power, which is the same brand that I have, but it must be very, very old compared to what I've got. But he was obviously happy with that, and he had it connected to the bandsaw. So there's the bandsaw. And the other thing which was extremely interesting to me was an engraver. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever seen pictures or clips of Tom Eltang engraving his pipes, but what he has is, if you imagine a key cutting machine, and so you put the key on one side, and you see them put the key on there, and they secure it with a little clamp, and then they put the clamp over here with a blank key, and this blank key just follows the shape of that key over there. Okay, so it's just basically does a duplicate, a facsimile, if you like, of that key over there. And that's what he has, what Tom Elting has for his engraving. So if you have a look at his pipes, you look at the engraving, it's not a laser etched engraving, it's an engraving, and you can see the fresh briar beneath. It's not burnt in, it's carved in. And how does he do that so precisely? It's because he's got one of those things which basically you have a plate, a template of the stamp that you're trying to create over here on the pipe, and you have a needle, let's say, which follows the template here, but you also have your pipe sitting here with a spinning carving drill or whatever, and that is carving the same thing that's over there, a stencil, or you can call it that, yeah. But it's quite a heavy duty one that he's got there, so I don't know if I'd be able to use it for pipes. It's something which I have to try, but if I can get it working, I would be very, very happy with that. That would be very exciting for me, because my stamps, as nice as they are, they're stamped by hand, and it's very inconsistent. Sometimes it works well, sometimes it doesn't, and for a whole number of reasons. Number one, sometimes you just don't get the angles right. Sometimes the density of the briar is different. Sometimes the stamp goes in deep. Sometimes it hardly makes an impression. So when you only really get one chance at it, so it's very, very hard to know whether what kind of strength you need, what force you need to do the right depth of stamp. So you kind of work yourself into doing an average, and sometimes it's great and sometimes it's not. That's the problem. So I've bought a laser thing to try and laser it, but I decided that I prefer the stamps because they're more traditional, they're more authentic to me, and it's also because I couldn't get the laser thing to work to the standard that I wanted. So if I couldn't do that, then I might as well go back to the stamping. So that's what I did. Maybe if I spend more money and get a better laser engraver, then I'd get a better result. I mean, you obviously see plenty of brands using lasers, and they look fantastic. So clearly it's doable. There's plenty of pipe makers out there. Asikian is a good example. His ones look great. I actually got in touch with Nish about that, and he told me that he actually goes to a factory and they allow him to use, so that must be a really high grade engraver that he uses, but it looks really good, the one that he does. So I have not been that fortunate so far when it comes to laser engraving. Yeah, I mean, I just find that laser engraving is very finicky and fussy, and lining it up and getting it right would probably take so long each time, it's just not worth it. Although if you had the room, you could set it up so that it's all set up, and that's it. Yeah, that's the way it goes, Phil. To be honest, these work very well. They're cheap. These are Vector, I think, Vertigo lighters. They're about 15 quid. For the money, they're very good. When it comes to Cuban cigars, I just prefer to use a soft flame usually. I don't usually use these, but I just wanted to get this relit. But usually I'll use a soft flame. I use the soft flame on this, which it does. You can use when it works. So you can go to soft flame and you can bring it down. big, small, torch. It's a good little big lighter, but it's a bit temperamental. You have to really get to know it a bit. Mini pink ones. The little mini Bics, they're too small. I did have some for a while, but I find them just a little bit too small and fiddly for big thumbs. Actually tastes a bit better now that it's relit. I often find that a lot of people, they eschew relighting cigars, but I actually find sometimes when I relight a cigar it tastes better. I was just showing off the Rhodesian that I was working on. I'm still in the middle of it. It's still got a way to go. This is just the first bit of buffing that I've done, but I still need to do some more buffing. There's still that bit there which I have to use a smaller mop for, but so far so good. It's worked out really well. I'm going to bend that still as well once I finish with it. What I like is a nice detail is that you can see this line, this middle line goes all the way up to the button. You can see that there as well. That line goes all the way up to the button, which is nice. Usually I would round off the two sides. That will get bent back a bit because that's the orientation of it, so the stem will be bent a little bit. OMD EM5 Mark II. I was very tempted when the first digital OMs came out, but I was already invested in Canon. I'm going back, when digital first started to become properly usable. I became a photographer literally at the transitional period. So in a way, my photography journey also kind of went in a similar sort of trajectory to digital imaging itself, and I kind of went along with that journey. So my cameras really upgraded along. I started off with a 10D, a Canon 10D, so that was one of the first cropped chip SLR cameras, digital SLR cameras from Canon. I then got the 20D, then I got the 40D. I think after the 40D I got the 5D, which was the first full frame digital camera ever by any company, I think. Then I got the 5D Mark II. I mean, the 5D was a game changer. Everybody, all the other brands had to play catch up with the 5D, and eventually some of them surpassed it, obviously. But 5D was the first real game changer when it came to full frame digital photography that was available to the masses. I mean, there were the very fancy brands that you could pay £20,000 for. In terms of cameras available to the masses, the 5D was the game changer, and I don't have my 5D anymore. I have a 5D Mark II and a 5D Mark III. My 5D Mark III is my workhorse, and my Mark II is my backup. And I think that's going to change soon. I can't afford to buy a Mark IV, but my 5D Mark III is really coming to the end of its life. I've hammered it, literally. It's being held together by super glue on various different spots. I've had to super glue together. There's various bits and pieces falling off it. For instance, you've got a directional toggle, a joystick on the back of the camera. That's gone, it's disappeared. So I'm only lucky because I have the extra battery grip, and I didn't even realise it, that there's one on there. So that's one of my kids pointed out to me, you've got a joystick on there as well. So I'm able to use that, so I don't have to go and change the camera as a result. The whole circuit board on the side, which holds the USB socket and the PC socket and all of that, I had to super glue that back in. Although now I don't use the PC socket. I used to be heavily reliant on the PC socket, but now all my flashes are radio controlled, so I don't need it anymore. But it still takes great pictures. That's the bottom line. It takes fantastic pictures. As long as you know how to use it, it takes great pictures. But when I went up to Manchester for my niece's wedding, so I was chatting with a photographer at the wedding. So he's got the new breed of Canon cameras. I think it's called an R6, maybe R6, I think. Full frame camera. Not such a heavy duty body. It's a plastic body, I think, but it's got all the latest technology in it, like unbelievable technology. So maybe I'll go down that route. I don't know, but it's a new size because it's a mirrorless camera. It's still full frame, but it's mirrorless. So the depth between the flange and the chip is much less. So if you want to use your existing Canon lenses, you have to get an adapter to increase that length again. But other than that, he said they're great cameras. So, but you're talking about a few £1,000 for those, and I just don't have a few £1,000 to drop on a camera. I mean, the day will come that the camera just stops working, and I have no choice. I can just see it that one day it'll stop working in the middle of a job. I'll have to jump onto the Mark II to get through that job, and then I'll be in a bind, and I'll have to go out and get a new camera. So I'll have to make a decision at that point. A Fuji XT. There's so many that I would love to get. There's the Sonys are amazing these days. The Fujis are amazing. If I was to do something now, would be maybe Sony, down the Sony route. Sony do some fantastic. Their glass is fantastic as well. But as I've always said, you invest in the glass, you invest in the lenses and the bodies you can change. But at the end of the day, you buy the best lenses that you can afford, and then I've been using the same lenses now for years, and thank God they're working okay. I have had to repair lenses in the past, but thankfully they're doing all right. I use the 24 to 105. It's an f4 lens. Ordinarily, I would have gone for a 24 to 70 f2.8 lens, but because the bodies are so good and the ISO levels you could use without any noise up to quite high, and most of the time I'm using my own lighting anyway, so I'm going at higher than f4 anyway. So I've been very happy with the f4. I have f2.8 70 to 200, one of those white lenses. With an adapter which takes it up to 300. So I use that sometimes, but I very, very rarely have to take off the 24 to 105 because it's got such a broad range. It's a fantastic camera. For me, it's the perfect wedding photographer lens. It really is, because you literally don't have to take it off the body. You can do a whole wedding with it. You've got wide, you've got zoom, you've about everything. Anyway, so that's my story for tonight. Any of you guys want to talk about anything else, feel free to start a topic. I'm open to any topic really, if you want to chat. Otherwise I'll call it a day. Phil, what was the topic we were talking about last time that you wanted to expand on? I don't recall what it was. Okay. Alright folks, so I'm going to say my bye-byes. Thank you Phil, thank you Patrick. Thank you UK Prepperman. Thank you Justin Frazier. Thank you Oscar. Thank you Paul the Piper. Thank you UK Prepperman. Thank you Adam, the Piper Wondering. Jonathan Stones, Mad Piper, Piper Said. Richard Piper, John Smith, Patrick, Paul Piper, I think I've said him. Thanks everybody, have a great weekend, and hopefully I'll be showing you the results of that pipe tomorrow at some point. Have a great day everybody, have a great weekend, catch you on the next one.